Classes, Java classes are a special and important concept to understand. Think of a class, a set of characteristics that your code can take. We use classes like templates to create objects. Java is an object-oriented programming language, so in this course, you will learn what objects are and how you can use them. To be more specific, a class provides attributes for the state and implementations of the behavior that an object would have. The easiest way to understand the concept of classes is to model real-life objects as if they were classes with their attributes and behaviors. For example, let's try this with a dog. Some characteristics that we can find in a dog are the number of legs, the color of its coat. These are our attributes. Also, we know that a dog can run. This will be a behavior in our class. Objects can also interact with each other. A class could contain some methods to perform operations with itself or other objects from the same class. Also, objects could define how your program will behave when executing some operations. A class could also be a point of entrance in a program. A class could help other objects to interact with each other. Maybe broadcasting an object from one program to another program in a distributed system. Sometimes the concept of a class is difficult to understand, as said before. Understanding the class concept would be easier by doing the practice of modeling objects that are all around your daily life. Here's another example, a car. We could say that a car has, let's see, max speed, color, branding, and the fuel level. These characteristics will be our attributes. Also, a car can be driven, can be refueled. We can drive that car at some speed. And also, we can check the actual speed of the car. These actions are our methods, their behavior. In the car class, so we can say that objects are instances of a class. So how do you declare a class? You can declare a class by specifying fields, constructors, and methods. The fields are the variables that you are using in a class, attributes in the class. There are different kinds of variables in a class: instance variables and local variables. Remember, methods will be defined depending on what you need. As we said before, the methods are the behavior of our class. We can also use the methods to interact with another class. The class body contains all the code that provides a definition of the objects created by the class. The constructor initializes the object in the constructor. It would say that you can define several parameters, variables to receive. Inside the constructor, it is common to initialize all the default values of your attributes. The constructor of the class would be executed every time a new instance is created. The code inside, along with the configurations made, will remain with this new instance and will not affect other instances. Declaration for the fields provide the state of the class and its objects. Methods implements the behavior of our class and its objects. In a class, you can also have the ability to expose different fields throughout different classes and its instances. For example, to declare a class, we can use the animal declaration, the minimal declaration expression, where we only declare the kind of access the class has, along with the reserved word class. And the name of the class. In this example, this class has public access. It is important to remember to always use the word class for class declarations. We use a camel notation as a special form to declare the name of our fields, methods, and classes in Java. To use the camel notation, you use the first letter uppercase if it's the name for a class, And you use the first letter lowercase if it's for a field or a method name. The second letter and the letters until you need to change the words are all written in lowercase. And the first letter of the second word will be uppercase. And then we repeat the rule. So the name of the variable looks like a camel. It is important for you to know this convention because it is very commonly used. Okay, so we type the access, the word class, and the class name in camel notation. The body of this class is inside the braces. Inside the body is where you declare the fields, methods, or constructors of the class. If you want to use inheritance or implements an interface, we're going to talk about that later. In your class definition, you use the reserved word extends or implements, followed by the name of the class you are inheriting from or the name of the interface or interfaces you're implementing. If you use more than one interface, you have to use a comma to separate each name of the interfaces. You cannot inherit from multiple classes, so you will never use the comma to separate name of classes just for interfaces. The body in a class is unique. You only need one body. Java lets you declare multiple classes in one file, but you only do this in special classes, and I don't recommend it. And it is better and more organized to make a file for each class you will declare. Let's talk about the variables or fields that we can have in a class. You could declare a field by typing the type, the name of the field, and an initial value for it. This initial value is optional. If you want to assign a value after the field name, you need to put an equal sign followed by the initial name, by the initial value you want. If you don't specify the value of your field, it would be the value. The default type for numbers is 0. For chart is the null chart, and for Boolean it's false. The variables that are inside a method are, and they will be destroyed when the method ends. The variables that are declared inside the method declaration that we use when we call the methods are called parameters. The parameters are passed by reference in Java. Java has also static and non-static variables. The static variables are the same in all instances of the class. To declare a static variable, type the word static before the type of the special word. For a non-static variable, you don't need to type a special word. Variables inside a class has also a process permissions like public, private, or friendly access. We will talk about those access in later lessons. The order in which we are declaring everything is very important because if we don't follow the specified syntax, we will end with compilation problems. And that's something we don't like to have. Now that we know the basics for declaring fields, let's get into the methods declaration. These are the main parts of a method, and we will get into each one. First, we need to declare the method header, which is composed by two modifiers, access modifier and static or non-static modifier. The return type of the method, which can be a primitive or a complex type. It's important to notice that if the method is not returning a value, we need to type the reserved word void in the method header. After the return type, we find the method name. After the method name, we find the parameters, which are enclosed by two parentheses, and each parameter is separated by commas. A good practice when declaring the parameters is to put first the complex type parameter and then the primitive ones. Because of this order, it would be easier to remember the values you need to place in the call of the method. It is important to know that it is valid to have a method that has no parameters. After we declare our parameters, we declare the body of the method. the body of the method is enclosed by braces. Inside the body of a method, you can put all the statements that you need. Remember that if we declare variables inside the method, those variables are going to be local variables. If we declare a return type in the method header, we need to use the word return. Our return body, remember that the object or variable that you put after the word return needs to be the same type that we declare in the return section of the method header. After the return statement, the method ends. It's also valid the use of the word return with no variables or objects before, but only if the method was declared void. So remember, methods are the behaviors and the fields are the attributes that our class has. And we have a special definition for each one. Also, it is worth to remember that we use constructors to initialize. In the next exercise, we will cover different ways to do our classes, how to define the different fields, the access to these fields, and the methods. We'll try to understand that what is the difference between static and non-static fields and methods in your class.